My name is Nova Bellamy. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Until recently, I believed my life was stable, maybe not thrilling, but grounded in something real. I had a marriage that looked polished from the outside, a home filled with curated furniture and carefully scheduled dinners, and a husband who wore designer suits and kissed me on the forehead like he meant it. Nathan Bellamy, the man I trusted for 11 years, was a senior executive at a booming media corporation. He traveled often, but always with explanations, brand meetings in Seattle, client events in San Diego, team building in Miami. I believed him until the day I opened his tablet to check our shared calendar and found something else. It was a confirmation email for a luxury Caribbean cruise, romantic suite for two, sunset couples massages, and the reservation was not for him and me. The guest name beside his Talia Monroe. I froze. Talia, the same woman who once laughed at our dinner table, complimented my cooking, and called me big sister at Nathan's last office retreat. My heart did not just break, it imploded. I scrolled further, hands shaking, and found selfies of Talia in lingerie, posing in the mirror of our guest bathroom. One message read, "I cannot wait to finally have you all to myself for 7 days." My throat burned. The betrayal was not just sexual, it was cruel, premeditated, and right under my roof. I stared at that screen until the light from the window shifted. I could have screamed. I could have smashed the tablet. But I did not. Instead, I reached for my phone and searched a name I barely remembered: Elias Quinn, Talia's fiancé. If my world had crumbled in seconds, I needed to make sure theirs would too. Because if Nathan thought I would go down quietly, he had no idea who I really was. And neither did she. I stared at Elias Quinn's LinkedIn profile like it was a lifeline. Founder of 2 tech startups, engaged to be married in the fall, currently based in Austin, Texas. A man who, like me, had no idea he was being played by someone who smiled in public and lied in private. I hesitated before messaging him, not because I feared the truth, but because I knew once I pressed send, there was no turning back. I attached the cruise confirmation, a screenshot of the lingerie photo, captioned, "Just 3 more weeks, baby," and a single line. "You deserve to know who she really is." He replied within an hour. His message was short, but not angry. Just focused. "Can you talk?" We met the next evening over coffee, and for 2 strangers bound by betrayal, the silence between us said more than words. I told him everything I had found, how long it had been going, on the travel patterns, the fake business trips. He listened, jaw-tight, hands still. Then he opened his laptop and showed me photos: Talia, wearing a necklace he had given her in a photo Nathan had also liked. She had been recycling lies between cities. We were not just betrayed. We were collateral in someone else's game. Elias leaned forward, voice calm but lethal. "They're going on that cruise no matter what. I say we go too." And just like that, revenge took shape, not in rage, but in precision. We booked cabins next door to theirs, under aliases, created a backstory as old college friends, and began planning every detail. It was not about making a scene. It was about letting them watch their carefully curated illusion fall apart, one subtle, devastating moment at a time. If you have ever had to team up with someone to reclaim your power, drop a yes in the comments and subscribe for more stories that prove silence is never the only option. This was no longer about catching cheaters. It was about taking back control. Nathan thought I would cry into a pillow. He had no idea I was already designing the cruise that would dismantle his fantasy, and Talia's too. The next 2 weeks passed in a quiet storm. By day, I fulfilled client calls and legal deadlines. By night, I became a strategist. Elias and I didn't just book the cruise, we studied the layout of the ship, mapped Nathan and Talia's suite location, and coordinated dinner seatings and spa appointments. Everything was timed to appear like coincidence. I scoured my closet only to close it in disgust. None of the clothes I owned matched the woman I needed to be. So I started over. I chose bold colors, tailored fits, statement jewelry. If I was going to face Nathan on that deck, I would not do it in the soft pastels he used to compliment while slowly detaching from me. Elias, meticulous and eerily calm, arranged a portfolio of screenshots, expense records, and meeting overlaps that showed Talia's pattern of double lives. She had used Nathan's card for couples massages just days after accepting Elias's engagement proposal. The more we uncovered, the more surreal it became. Our lives had been parallel tragedies, orchestrated by two selfish people who had no idea they were about to share a ship with the very truth they tried to outrun. The night before departure, Elias and I met at a rooftop lounge overlooking Charleston's marina. There was no flirting, no confusion, just quiet resolve. "This is not about burning them down," he said, his voice low. "It's about freeing ourselves." I nodded, though part of me still burned with the need for impact. Not chaos, but clarity. I didn't want to scream. I wanted Nathan to see me standing tall in the light of everything he threw away and realize that the woman he underestimated had become the one thing he feared unafraid. We boarded the ship early, blending into the crowd of honeymooners and retirees, our smiles rehearsed but believable. I stood on the upper deck with a drink in hand, sunglasses on, wind in my hair, and when I saw Nathan and Talia walk up the gangway, laughing, touching, shameless, I did not look away. I smiled, because the stage was set and they had just stepped into our carefully designed script. This time they were not in control. We were. Our first encounter came quicker than expected. Nathan and Talia strolled into the beach bar on the second day, like they were auditioning for a perfume commercial, tan, skin-careless laughter, drinks in hand. I was seated at the corner of the patio, wearing a crimson wrap dress Nathan had never seen. He locked eyes with me for a moment, and his entire body paused. Talia was still giggling, oblivious. I raised my glass to him. No words. Just a smile that carried 10 years of betrayal, and one very sharp edge. Elias leaned in, pretending to tell a joke, and I laughed on cue. It was surgical. Later that evening, during the wine tasting, Talia noticed Elias. Her face turned pale. "Is that?" she whispered to Nathan. They both looked stunned, almost frozen. Elias approached them with practiced grace. "Fancy seeing you here," he said with just enough bite. Nathan tried to recover, extending a hand as if this was a happy accident. "Small world," he muttered. "Very," Elias replied, cool and unshaken. We introduced ourselves as old college friends, just enjoying a spontaneous getaway. Nathan's eyes never left mine. He knew something was wrong. He just did not know how wrong. Each day, we turned up where they least expected, on the snorkeling excursion, the salsa dance class, even a couples meditation workshop. We never accused. We just existed, smiling, confident, radiant. And it unraveled them. By the fourth day, Talia's cheerful vacation outfits were replaced with oversized sunglasses and clipped tones. Nathan barely touched his drink at dinner, eyes darting every time we entered the room. The tension built with every encounter, every whisper, every subtle exchange. Elias and I kept our coordination tight. A shared look here, a line dropped there. We never rushed the reveal. Because true revenge isn't a scream, it is a slow mirror, reflecting everything they tried to hide. And now, on this floating palace of lies and cocktails, they were watching their fantasy collapse in real time, unsure whether it was coincidence or karma. And we were just getting started. The gala was the crown jewel of the cruise, a black tie affair held in the grand atrium, complete with champagne towers, live string quartets, and a photographer snapping couples in front of the ship's crystal staircase. Nathan and Talia arrived just as I knew they would, flawless and arrogant. Her dress shimmered under the chandelier lights, but her posture had changed. She scanned the room the way a hunted animal scans a forest. Nathan, ever the performer, tried to maintain control. I let him, for now. Elias and I arrived separately, each of us dressed to the nines. He wore a navy suit, clean-shaven, calm. I wore midnight blue hair, swept-up lips, red as war. When we crossed the floor and locked eyes with our targets, I watched the confidence drain from their faces like melting ice. Talia clutched Nathan's arm. Nathan's jaw clenched. Still, we said nothing. The slideshow began after dinner. It was supposed to be a highlights reel of the cruise, the beaches, the games, The laughter. But someone anonymously, of course, had swapped the files. The first image was harmless. Then came a photo of Nathan and Talia in a hotel spa, time-stamped 3 days before one of Nathan's Seattle meetings. Then another Talia wearing the diamond necklace Elias had gifted her during their engagement celebration. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The final photo was a split image, Talia holding hands with Nathan in one frame and standing beside Elias' ring, visible in another. Elias stood up slowly, glass in hand. Some people board this ship to escape their lives. Others bring their lies with them. His voice was calm, poised. I just wanted to thank the cruise line for helping us see everything clearly. A few claps broke out awkward and scattered. I walked over to Nathan, leaned in close enough for only him to hear. Check your company's expense account tomorrow. Oh, and say goodbye to your board seat. Then I turned heels echoing as I walked out, Elias falling into step beside me. Behind us, the perfect illusion had shattered, and everyone saw the truth. We disembarked with no goodbyes. No need. The silence Nathan and Talia wore said everything. By the time the ship docked, the video clips had already spread. A few guests had filmed Elias's speech. Others had caught my whispered exit. Cruise gossip moved faster than Wi-Fi. But I was not interested in revenge by viral video. My justice would unfold in real life. 3 days later, Nathan's company launched a formal investigation. I had already submitted the receipts, the flights, the spa bookings, the $1,800 bottle of wine charged during the Seattle meeting. His access to corporate cards was frozen by end of week. By the following Monday, he was relieved of client-facing duties, and his name disappeared from the board listing. Talia was not spared either. Elias had forwarded a financial audit to her startup's CFO, exposing thousands in overlapping charges. She was suspended, then asked to resign in the best interest of company integrity. Neither of them saw it coming, not because we had hidden our intentions, but because they never believed we were capable of responding with power instead of pain. That was their real mistake. Meanwhile, I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. It was not far, but it felt like another world. I leased a waterfront apartment and converted part of it into a private legal consulting studio. Within 6 weeks, I had 4 clients and a growing waiting list, small business owners, mostly women, looking to protect themselves before they ended up like me. Or worse. I spent my mornings walking along the coast and my nights answering emails under soft lamps, a mug of tea in hand. There was peace here, not loud or cinematic, but earned. Elias and I stayed in touch, mostly through quiet check-ins. There was no romantic illusion between us, just mutual understanding and something rarer, respect. One day, I found an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside were 2 cruise tickets and a note. This time for freedom. No secrets, no lies. I stood by the window for a long time, ticket in hand, the waves below catching the light. I did not know yet if I would go, but this time, if I did, it would be on my terms. There is a quiet kind of victory that does not need applause. No grand finale, no dramatic scene. Just the stillness that comes when you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to those who chose to misunderstand you. That is the space I live in now. Nathan still tries occasionally, emails filled with nostalgia and deflection disguised as apologies. I do not open them anymore. I do not need his words to validate what I already reclaimed: my peace, my voice, my power. The greatest lesson I learned was not about betrayal. It was about value. When someone chooses lies over loyalty, what they are really saying is they never saw your worth to begin with. And sometimes the only way to remind them and yourself is to walk away and thrive. Not out of revenge, but out of reverence for the person they forgot you were. I used to believe closure came from answers, from confrontation. But the truth is, closure is a choice you make alone in the dark when no one else shows up for you but you. I chose to stop bleeding for someone who watched me hurt and kept lying anyway. That was the day healing began, not when I exposed Nathan, not when I humiliated Talia, but when I realized I did not need either of them to move forward. The cruise tickets still sit on my nightstand. I look at them sometimes not as a symbol of romance, but of reclaiming control. I do not know if I will go, but if I do, it will be for me. To celebrate the version of myself that rose from ash without bitterness. A version that knows forgiveness is not weakness, and boundaries are not cruelty, they are survival. So here I am, Nova Bellamy, 34. Betrayed but not broken. Smiling not because everything is perfect, but because I finally chose myself. If this story resonated with you, if you have ever had to rebuild after betrayal, or discover your strength in silence type, I choose peace in the comments and subscribe for more stories of power healing and reclaiming what was never theirs to destroy. Because sometimes the real revenge is not watching them fall. It is watching you rise.